Good morning! In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Just kidding. Name that movie, it's pretty easy. Anyway, this is the day after I did the undercoating on the interior of the van. It's still feeling a little tacky. Sorry, I'm not going outside because it's still quite windy. I don't want the audio to be completely messing up. I think I'm gonna let it cure for at least one more day, maybe two. Just because it smells really toxic, and honestly, I just don't want to be working in there. The next step's probably going to be flooring, so let's let it set. We're in no rush right now. But what that means is we got to do stuff on the outside of the van. So for today, what I think I'm going to attempt is at the front of the van, on the roof, on the outside, just above the windshield, there's some rust that's developing. So I want to get up there, strip that down, prime it, and hit it with some color matched paint. It's not going to be pretty. Doesn't need to be. We're just trying to prevent the rust from getting any worse, right? So yeah, that's the plan for today. And because it's so windy, I'm just gonna set the camera up for a time lapse, show you what I'm doing. You can listen to the soothing sounds of whatever music I choose to go with it. Maybe rockabilly or death metal. Kind of depends on the mood I'm in when I'm editing. I'm also just probably going to use the brush that I used on the hitch and the other surface rust inside the van. I bought all the grades of sandpaper to do a proper paint job on a car. I have a feeling that would take a lot longer. We're gonna start with this. If it seems like it's a problem, then we'll switch it up to the sandpaper, but I'm hoping we can just get it done with this. Not fancy, just functional. So don't use what I do as a guideline for how to do things. This is called jerry-rigging. I'm just figuring out what's the easiest way for me to do this. It's utter nonsense, but I think in the end, it will work for what I'm doing. So yeah, first coat of primer's on there, gonna wait for 20 minutes, and probably hit it with one more, and then get to the other white. So just mirrors that seem a little weird to have white primer and then use white paint. Okay, put in the camera back up to do this ridiculous paint job. Ooh, right idea was it? To paint on a windy day. This is what we're using. Duplicolor, perfect match. It duplicates original GM colors. This can, not all of them. Don't be mistaken. Win. Nobody wants you here. So I figured while I wait for the paint to dry up there, as I'm just sitting around twiddling my thumbs, I would repaint the trim that go around the door handles for the car. Game on. Sorry. Yeah, that I would redo the trim that goes around the door handles for the rear cargo door and the side cargo door. This is the one for the rear. I was gonna clean it up a little bit with the drill, get all the dirt and grime off it. I've kind of already done that to this one. And I'm gonna hit it with some black paint. This is the one that goes on the side cargo door, and I just realized it's actually broken. Yeah, it's right there. It's supposed to be connected, and another one's supposed to be connected right here. And that's where the screws go to actually mount this to the door. Clearly broken. Clearly means I got to make another trip to pick and pull. That's not today. That'll be on another day. So let's paint this one. This one's broken too. Snapped kind of right there. I guess I got to epoxy that. Not too concerned about it. Oh no, where's the black paint? Funny thing is, I'm gonna do these black. That's just what I have. But with the style of the interior that I want to do for the van, black's not really gonna go. I wonder what would be a good color. Brown, I guess. Oh well, that's what white primer's for. We can always reset it. So this is mostly just because I'm bored waiting for the other paint to dry. I do have something to say. I think. What was it? Oh, right. Not very well thought out, that's for sure. But doing all this like janky paint work today kind of made me think about how I've in the past gone about doing stuff when it comes to cars. Now, obviously there's certain things that you have to do, not even that you have to do, but that should be done a certain way, right? Like torquing bolts down. You can't not do that. You should torque things down properly when especially when they're important components, right? Like the brake bolts and whatnot, or your lug nuts is the biggest one. And there's certain other things, like when you start changing spark plugs, there's a certain way that has to be done. There is no other way to get them out. You have to use a socket. That's by the book stuff. But when it comes to stuff like painting, in the past, like I used to own I've had 2 Preludes, Honda Preludes in my life. My very first car was a 1989 Honda Prelude. I love that thing. I love that thing so much that years later, and many cars later, I also bought a 1995 Honda Prelude. And the white one, unfortunately, was automatic. I didn't know how to drive standard when I first started driving. The red one was standard, and that's why I bought it. I mean, it was a beater. It was a beater of a car, at least like for the exterior, right? I bought it for like $800 or something. But the engines in those things go. Those VTEC engines, they'll go forever. You take care of them. But anyways, the red one had a lot of body damage to it, and that's when I kind of dipped my toe into doing DIY body work, right? So you can get all that sort of stuff at Canadian Tire or Princess Auto, Bondo, right? And you repair, and then you sand, and then you paint over it. I dove deep into how to do it, the proper way to do it. And you can see it in stuff just like this, right? Like this is kind of what made me think about it. This was the sandpaper that I bought for the van that we used a little bit of today. So, and it's all labeled appropriately, right? So this is 40 grit. This is to remove paint and rust, which is what we used. Then I got a 400, which is for scuff glaze and spot putty before primer. And then this one is 1,000. I don't think I'm gonna use this. It's for remove dust, nibs, and paint runs in color base coat. And I guess I get it, but here's the thing. So there's 40, 400, and 1,000. There's almost every other number in between those. You know, it goes 40, 60, 100, 120, 220, 2... And they're all just different grades and different grits of sandpaper to make it look good. And I get it, if you are a professional auto detailer, I don't even know if you're using this shit. Probably not. But you look it up online and everybody's got an opinion. This is how bodywork should be done. You have to do it this way. You have to remove the paint, remove the rust. Obviously, you want to do that. And then you got to do the next layer of paint and rust removal. And then the next grit of, you know, feathering the paint. It's just, it can get to be a little overwhelming. And I was always the guy that was like, if I'm going to do something like that, I want to try and do it well. And I followed it to the T as much as my like bank account at the time would have allowed with the Prelude. And it still turned out like garbage, right? So now when it comes to stuff like this on the van, I'm like, do I need it to be like showroom presentable? Absolutely not. I didn't even look anything up. I just went to the store, said, okay, I need to remove rust and paint, get down to I knew I need to get to the metal. I've got primer, and I'll buy the closest color match paint. I'm just gonna throw it up there. I did not spend enough time on the roof today to make it look really pretty, but I wasn't trying to do that. I guess what I'm trying to say is don't get caught up too much when it comes to your projects. And yes, recognizing that there are certain projects that you want you to follow. You know, if you're building a coffee table, maybe measurements are important. You don't want the coffee table to be wonky, right? I'm gonna get to that stuff when I start building the interior of the van. But certain things, I guess it's like pick and choose what you're going to pull your hair out over. And I get it, some people are they're gonna want the exterior of their vehicles to be spotless and super presentable, right? Now, I'm not saying that you should drive around in a vehicle that's just covered in rust and filthy, and if you have the means to do something about it and don't, that's okay. No, I mean, take a little pride in it. I think I hear that one of the biggest issues with van dwelling and van lifers is just like any other facet of life, there are people that give it a bad rep because of the way they present it to everybody else, right? The people that have broken down vans or broken down campers with shit strapped to the top with tarps flapping in the breeze and raggedy ropes and every other thing. I'm just saying, be presentable as possible, but again, if you don't need it to be show worthy, then why waste your time? It all comes down to the fact that it's easy to get I did it this morning myself. I'm looking up flooring for the van and I'm trying to figure out what's the smartest thing to do. Should I be screwing the subfloor right into the metal of the van, or should I be using construction adhesive instead? And there are opinions for both and arguments for both. And that is true for every topic on the internet. And I understand some things are black and white, right? What's a good example? If you're making a pecan pie, don't use walnuts. You know, I mean, that's silly, but I mean, if you're looking up a recipe for a pecan pie, don't substitute walnuts. I mean, I guess you could. But that's what I mean. Everything's flexible, but at least I can get stuck in this ever-going circle of what does everybody else think is the best way of doing things, and I won't do anything. And I felt that happening to me today with the subfloor for the van. I've made a decision. I live in Canada. I'm going to be in winter. I don't want to have to deal with more holes in the floor of my van. I'm just going to use construction adhesive. Here's the next problem. Do I use liquid nails, or do I use stuff like this? This is what I used to lay the flooring in the old apartment. No, well, not on the flooring, sorry, baseboards. But this says construction adhesive right on it. Is this fine? Or are liquid nails better? Like you go into Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever, and it's just a wall of all of these things. And I imagine, just like any other tool, whether it's this or, this or my hammer or whatever, every tool has its purpose. So if these are considered tools, how do I know which one's the best? Is it based on price? Is it based on what it does? Is it based on weather? Like, that's the kind of stuff that I just get lost in. And I'm just gonna go with my gut with the experience that I have. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't put too much stock in what other people think. Take everything as an education for yourself and make a decision. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only one that gets caught up in weird stuff like that. I don't know. Here's an example of probably doing it wrong that I thought while I was doing it, but I don't know. So this is what I use to clean the paint dust and rust dust off the bare metal and wipe it down before I primed it. Like, it's just fantastic, original fantastic. Like, somebody will probably be like, well, now that's gonna have a chemical reaction with the metal and the whole darn van is just gonna disintegrate. I don't know. But I didn't want to stop, climb off the roof, turn off the time lapse, and just again Google best way to clean bare metal before primer. Like, yes, there's going to be ways you should do things. Those ways are probably definitely longer lasting, probably more expensive. And so yeah, I see the benefits there, but sometimes you just gotta do things and go with your gut and just use what you have on hand, right? I think that's gonna end up playing a big part of this whole van life chapter of my life. And I just need to learn to be a little bit more okay with that and not have to worry too much about the actual proper way of doing certain DIY things. Does that make sense? Sounds very confusing to me. I don't know. Super weird. But yeah, that's about it for this one, I think. This wasn't much of anything. I'll hit this with another coat of paint, let it dry. It's not going back on the door for a while. I want to do, I'm not even going to put these back on. Let's take a little walk. Oh, God, I hate that transition. But these, right? Like, so these were on all doors, but I took them off this and the side cargo door. I'm going to take this one off here and off the other side cargo door because that's just nasty. And we'll do them hopefully in the same MDF board trim that I want to do the inside of the van. And depending on when this video comes out, you've already seen that. So I don't know. Very confusing. How Tarantino of me. I think that's it for this one. So until the next one, guys, just be happy, be creative, be yourselves, and most importantly, just be positive. I'll see you in the next one.